Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is it. This is the breaking news we've been waiting for. Sir Jim Ratcliffe confirmed to be taking over 25% of Manchester United Football Club. This has been a REIT saga. It's not just been the 13 months since the Glazers announced they were looking for strategic alternatives, which everyone took to mean they were looking to sell Manchester United Football Club. This has been going back 18 years. We have wanted the Glazers gone for 18 years. They're not gone yet. They still own the majority of Manchester United. But this, hopefully, could be the first step to the Glazers going. We did think at one point, when this was announced, when this bidding war got underway between Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that it was going to be Sheikh Jassim who was successful. Then we looked at it and we heard from various reports that Sheikh Jassim wasn't willing to pay over the odds, even though he'd already offered over the odds. He wasn't willing to go any higher. And the Glazers perhaps weren't going to get the 7 billion quid they wanted for Manchester United Football Club. So he dropped out. That left Sir Jim Ratcliffe as the sole main bidder. And everyone thought, okay, he's going to win. But it seemed the Glazers were reluctant to sell. We hear that there's been a sort of disagreement between the likes of Joel and Avram, who do want to keep hold of the football club, and Darcy and Trevor and Duncan and Shaniqua and all the others, or whatever they're called. I don't even know. I don't even care about letting go of the club completely. So some wanted to stay, some wanted to keep it, some wanted to go. It seems this has been the best way, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe's way, of getting his hands on some of Manchester United, hopefully with a view to taking over more of it. It has dragged on for far too long. Now, what does this mean now? He's come in with his 25% takeover. Obviously, he's not the majority shareholder, but from what we hear now is that he's going to have a say in footballing matters. The football side of things could be in the hands of grown-ups, because for far too long it has been ran haphazardly at best. We've seen people who don't have a clue about running a footballing department, like Ed Woodward, for example, being put in a position that is arguably the most important at the football club. And we've seen the amount of money we've wasted on transfers that haven't worked out, the amount of players we've given huge contracts to. We've seen how the playing side of things at Manchester United has been allowed to go to rack and ruin, to the point now where we are miles away from where we need to be. We're miles behind the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool, and it pains me to say that. We should be not just the biggest club in England, which we are, but also the best club in the world, the best team in the world. There was a time when, under Sir Alex Ferguson, we could claim that with our chests out, that we had the best players on the planet. We haven't anymore, and a lot of that is down to the Glazers' mismanagement of the football club. We know what they've done with the ownership in the payments, the dividend payments, and also the loans and the debt that they've saddled us with. That is infuriating, but what's almost just as infuriating for me is the way that there's been this mismanagement at Manchester United. If the Glazers weren't so thick, they could have maybe even had the cake and eat it a little bit. They could have had a successful football club, and they could have taken out money. Yes, there still would have been protests. We've always protested against the Glazers, even when we're winning things. But there might have been a way that they could have stayed on without the outrage that we've seen continuously. But that's not going to happen. The fans don't want the Glazers here, and a lot of it isn't just to do with success on the pitch, but that does play a little part in the feeling of anger towards the Glazers, because you see the amount of money that's wasted, the amount of ridiculous decisions that have been made. We saw recently an article from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic where he highlighted just what's been going on behind the scenes, like some Murtaugh with Woodward, and it just seems like no one's got a real clue, and you've got to put the blame of that at the Glazers' door. Now Sir Jim Ratcliffe's coming in, he can bring in his own team. We know he's got ideas, he's got people he's associated with, who he knows can manage and run successful, not just football clubs, but sporting endeavours, if I can use that phrase, if that even makes any sense. He's going to bring in people who can get United success, who can help United win things and challenge for the best. That's what he wants to do. The thing with the Glazers, I've always felt, is there's never been this desire or this determination to make Manchester United the best. There's always been this desire and determination to just keep the money coming in. So if United finish fourth or it finish first, it doesn't matter. And if you can spend less money and just finish fourth and still get in the Champions League, that'll do you. That's been the Glazers' attitude for far too long, and that's why we keep falling short, and that's why we're in the predicament we're in now. It's going to be interesting to see what this new takeover, partial takeover, whatever you want to call it, means for Erik Ten Hag. He's been under pressure lately this season with some poor results. A lot of people saying, oh, there's going to be this manager coming in and Sir Jim Ratcliffe won't stomach it. We'll have to wait and see. Personally, I would love Sir Jim Ratcliffe to say, look, Erik Ten Hag, you've got till at least the end of the season to turn this around. And he deserves that for me, Erik Ten Hag, not just because of the season we had last season when we finished third and won a trophy, but also because changing managers constantly and quickly hasn't got us anywhere. And I don't see anyone coming in who's going to fix the issues we've got at Manchester United. We've also got quite a few players coming back from injury, which I think will help Erik Ten Hag. But we'll have to wait and see what the new owners decide to do, or the new owner, part owner, whatever you want to call it, decides to do. But it does feel like a positive move. The mad thing about this is I remember being on a live about 5 years ago on Full Time Devils, and a couple of people in the chat at the time were saying, do you know United should get as the new owner like we could choose Sir Jim Ratcliffe? He's meant to be a Manchester United fan and he's the richest man in Britain. And there wasn't much talk of it at that time. Most people looking at the Glazers, looking that they weren't going to go anywhere. Not many people were suggesting Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Then we had the Chelsea bid, where he bid for Chelsea. Now, some people looked at that and go, well, how can he be a United fan if he's bidding for Chelsea? Yet we spoke to Kieran Maguire from The Price of Football, and he said, hang on, when you look at that bid that Sir Jim Ratcliffe put in for Chelsea, it was late, I think it was past the deadline, and it was low compared to some of the other bids. It didn't feel like a real concerted effort to buy Chelsea. It felt, like Kieran Maguire said, as though he was sending a message, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, to the Glazers. Look, I've got money, I'm looking for a football club, I'm willing to buy a football club. And it wasn't long after that, if you remember, that the Glazers actually said, OK, we're going down this route of strategic alternatives. And then you had all this clamour from a lot of fans. I did a live here when we had there was a live Q&A with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, and everyone was waiting to see what he'd say about Manchester United. And I did a live, sort of almost like a watch-along of his Q&A. And loads of people were in the chat saying, we want Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Sir Jim Ratcliffe could be the answer. And he was a bit vague when he was asked about it. He said, the Glazers, they're not going to sell, all the rest of it. He did sort of say, though, that he was a Manchester United fan and that, he'd always been a Manchester United fan and wanted to would be looking to expand or buy a club or whatever. But then came the bidding war between him and Sheikh Jassim, and it felt for me like more people wanted Sheikh Jassim than Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That's how it felt. I don't know if that's the case, but certainly online, the noise was a lot louder around Sheikh Jassim. People saying, look, it's going to be a full takeover, not a partial one. We're going to have a brand new stadium. We're going to have all the best in class. We're going to have all this money invested into the area. We're going to have the best training ground. He's going to do at Manchester United what Sheikh Mansour has done at Manchester City. There was some people, myself included, who were against Manchester United becoming a sports washing enterprise, and that's how it felt with the Sheikh Jassim bid. People saying he's an independent person. Come on. It looked very much like he had the Qatar state behind him. I'm a little bit wary of that. Nothing against Qatar. Just didn't want us to be owned by any state. I include Britain in that. I want Britain owning us. And it felt a little bit like sports washing, which is what I've criticised the likes of PSG, City and Newcastle for. But however, it's all a moot point. Sheikh Jassim didn't buy Manchester United. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has bought a part of Manchester United. Remains to be seen whether this is going to lead to him owning more of Manchester United. That is what I'm hoping. I want the Glazers gone. But in the meantime, hopefully, we can get a proper structure in place and get Manchester United back to where we belong. And that is at the very, very top of football. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Don't forget as well, got a lot of good stuff coming up on the channel. There's links in the description. Go and check them out. I'm Jay Motty. This has been a bit of breaking news. And if you can as well, get over to Dublin on the 28th because we're going to be there. Me, Steve, McCullough, Joe and Wes Brown. 28th of Dublin. There's a link in the description. Join us if you can. Thanks for watching.